The NFL Week 12 just wrapped up, so I'm going to recap every primetime game and the Cowboys game. Okay, first up we had the Bills at the Texans. This game ended in a score of 23-19 with the Texans winning. Josh Allen was sacked 8 times. And one thing I do want to point out here is, are the Bills still going to win the AFC East? Because honestly, I think most people this season just said, oh, AFC East, that's an easy win for the Bills. But looking at it, the Patriots are currently sitting at 10-2. And New England, they currently have their next weeks. They just played the Bengals and won. Then they have the Giants. That's a win. They have a crucial game against Buffalo, where if that's a win for the Patriots, that practically locks up the division. And then they have, after that, they have Baltimore, and then the Jets and the Dolphins. So I think that Week 15 game against the Patriots for the Bills is going to be a crucial deciding factor in who wins that AFC East. And maybe that comes into play. If they win that game, they lock up a playoff spot. And if they lose it, they could be out of the playoffs. I would not put it past the Bills to miss the playoffs this year. Because they're currently sitting at, 7-4? And so that's 2 games out of the division lead. And then 7-4, you do that, that's like 6 losses if they keep on this pace. So 11-6, or 10-7, that is borderline playoff. So who knows? I think that the Bills will make the playoffs, but if they miss it, it's going to come down. They're going to look back and they're going to say, if we would have won that game in Week 4 against the Patriots. Because you also have to think the Patriots also have the head-to-head right now against the Bills. But yeah, for the Texans, their playoff hopes are still very much in jeopardy, because even though they moved to 6-5, they still got some tough games. This week, the Texans have, let's see here, Houston going across. They have, what? Okay. Hold on one second. Just trying to look at my schedule here. They have the Colts. They have, it looks like, the Chiefs, the Cardinals, Raiders, and then Chargers, and then Indianapolis again. So, the Texans, they could very much still make the playoffs, but it's going to be a tall task, and they're going to need some help. But Davis Mills has actually looked pretty good, as he's 3-0, and I think that is about 99% the defense. But hey, that's what you really look for in a backup. You want them to be able to come in, keep your team afloat, or even make your team better in this case. And then when C.J. Stroud gets back, hopefully that offense doesn't go back to what they did earlier in the season, where they were losing a lot of games. So, yep, Thursday Night Football. Let's see, this upcoming week we have for Thursday Night Football. I don't know how I'm going to do this. So comment below, do you want me in my next week to do the all the Thanksgiving games, or do you want me just to do one of them? Or do the Sunday night game, not the Sunday night, the Thursday night game. So that would be Ravens, Bengals. So, or I could do, I guess I'm doing the Cowboys game for Thursday too. So we'll see. But yeah, that's Thursday Night Football. Next, we have the Philadelphia Eagles at the Dallas Cowboys. This game ended in a score of 24-21. Cowboys win in a crucial game to keep their playoff hopes alive, because this game looked like the Cowboys were practically selling their season away. Because if you didn't watch it, this game started off 21-0 the Eagles at one point. Cowboys scored 7 before the half. And then, when that fourth quarter came, they really started to come alive, scoring a touchdown to Spanford, and then Dak ran it in for a touchdown to tie the game up. And then we had a crucial, it went back and forth. The Cowboys got lucky as the Eagles got a punt that was fumbled, and the Cowboys recovered. And then Saquon fumbled the ball, and the Cowboys were able to get it back, drive down. Brandon Aubrey kicked it for the win. Very good. But yeah, honestly, Brandon Aubrey did miss a field goal in this game, which is very rare for him. And I mean, luckily if he would have missed the one to win the game, that would have been crucial. And I would have had some speculation like, okay, what's going on with Brandon Aubrey? Because he never misses. So that's a little uncharacteristic for him. But yeah, this Cowboys defense, I think what I've seen the last couple weeks against the Raiders and against the Eagles, we knew that the Raiders was going to be like, okay, the defense should perform. Like, you got Geno throwing interceptions every 2 seconds. And, that O-line is not that good. But I think we all were looking at, okay, we saw what they were going to do against the Raiders. Now, what are they going to do against the Eagles this week? And that'll be a real test. And I feel like they were up to the test. They didn't. Aside from that first half, I mean, the defense stepped it up, forcing fumbles. I know we only got 1 sack, but hey, we were holding them. And that's all you got to do. Holding them, making them punt that ball. So, I mean, if this defense can even be half of what the offense is, then we'll be good. Because we'll get a test. Again, we have a tough couple weeks. We'll have another huge test against the Chiefs this Thursday. And next Thursday, so a week break, we do have the Lions on December 4th. Yeah, this Cowboys team has a tough upcoming schedule if you're looking at it. We knew that if we could just exit the first half of the season with a good record, which we didn't, we would have a pretty tough second half. But yeah, this makes this second half way more important because if you look at the Cowboys here, they have an upcoming schedule of KC, Detroit, Minnesota, that's probably an easy win, Chargers, and then Washington and the Giants. So if we can make it to week 17, say needing 2 wins to get into the playoffs, I feel confident about that. Say it's like, okay, all the Cowboys have to do is win out against the Commanders and the Giants and maybe need 1 person to lose. I feel pretty good about our playoff chances, considering what we did to Washington earlier this season, and that was without the additions of Logan Wilson and Quinnen Williams. And then Giants, they're just the Giants, already eliminated from playoff contention. But yeah, I think the Cowboys could easily make the playoffs this year. And it wouldn't shock me if they're in the playoffs come January. Next, you got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Los Angeles Rams. This game ended in a score of 34-7. The Rams beat the Buccaneers. And one thing I do want to point out here is earlier in the season, everyone was like, Baker Mayfield, oh my gosh, he's the MVP. And now that kind of has shifted to, hey, Matthew Stafford's the MVP, and the Rams look like the best team in the league. And so I know that Baker was out for most of this game, and Teddy Bridgewater had to come in. But honestly, I watched like the first half of this game before it got too unbearable to watch. And it was like 28-7. And so even after Baker Mayfield got hurt, it wasn't like, oh, it was neck and neck when Baker was there, and then they just lost it when he got hurt. It was getting out of hand when he got injured. So, I mean, the Rams do look like the best team in the league right now, and that's why they're number 1 in a lot of people's power rankings that I've seen. Because this team, they play good defense, holding those Buccaneers to 7 points with Baker Mayfield. And that offense is great with Matthew Stafford playing like an MVP. 30 touchdowns to only 2 interceptions, I believe. So, I mean, this Rams team, call me crazy, they're a sleeper Super Bowl pick right now. Because I think a lot of people are going to go, oh, the Eagles, the Lions, those front runners that people remember from last season, like, oh. But keep in mind, this Rams team, they got to the divisional round and were keeping up with Philly and were a couple missed passes away from going to the Super Bowl. Well, not Super Bowl, but NFC Championship game to face the Commanders, where I think they probably could have won that game. So it's not like this Rams team is coming from worst in the league to one of the best in the league. But yeah, like I touched on earlier, the Buccaneers, they looked like the best team early, and they've fallen off so much. As I think now they sit at like 6-5 or something like that. And the Panthers, they're breathing down their neck as I think it was if the Panthers would have won on Monday Night Football, which we'll get to that in a second, they would have taken the lead in the NFC South, something that no one had on their bingo card this year. I think everyone just, like we were talking about with the Bills earlier, they look at the NFC South and look at all the teams in there, and they see Panthers, Saints, Falcons, and the Buccaneers. They're like, oh, Buccaneers, easy win. And I think that, like the Panthers, Bryce Young is hitting his stride, and they are realizing, hey, we can actually win this division if Bryce Young puts in the work and he finds his stride like he has been doing as of late. But yeah, pretty much a blowout here. Are the Rams the best team in the league? We'll see. Let's see. Next week they have the Rams. They have the Panthers, the Cardinals, the Lions, the Seahawks, the Falcons, and the Cardinals. So, honestly, I think they're going to clinch up the NFC's number 1 seed. There are only like 2 or 3 hard games in there against the Lions, the Seahawks, and something like that. But yeah, I think the Rams could easily get that number 1 seed. Okay, next we have Monday Night Football, where the Panthers were taking on the 49ers. This game ended in a score of 20-9. 49ers win. The 49ers, they had Ricky Pearsall and Brock Purdy. I know that this was the first time really on primetime getting to watch that 49ers team with all their healthy people. Well, not all of their healthy people. Well, not all of their injured people back, but Ricky Pearsall and Brock Purdy. They didn't help much in this game, but trust me, that is much better than having, I think, Kendrick Bourne is your number 1 wide receiver. So that's great for this 49ers team to get him back. This game was definitely, most people would say, 20-9, pretty defensive battle. No, not at all. This game was, holy cow, the offenses were garbage. Brock Purdy had 3 interceptions, I think, in the first half. Bryce Young, I think, added on 1 or 2 more. So this game was just, I don't have much to say about it because I was like, holy cow, this game is garbage. Yeah, I had Brock Purdy on my fantasy team because both of my quarterbacks were on bye. I'm dropping him this week because that was a garbage performance for him. But yeah, like I talked about earlier, the Panthers, they can legit win their division with the Buccaneers losing all these games. And the Panthers, if we look at who they have currently upcoming on their schedule, they have, let's see here. They have the Rams, the Saints, the Buccaneers in Week 16, which is going to be a huge game if it keeps like this. And then Seattle, and then Tampa Bay to close the season, which very well could decide that division with how it's looking right now. With these teams, the Panthers at 6-6 and the Buccaneers at 6-5. With how it's looking, only a game away from each other, those 2 games are going to be crucial in who wins this division. But again, with the 49ers, they're 8-4 now. And with most of their guys being out, I know they got George Kittle back a couple weeks ago. Ricky Pearsall we talked about. Brock Purdy. And they have a couple guys missing on defense. But hey, with all these injuries that they're able to, unlike last year, keep up and get to 8-4, that's huge. And the Buccaneers could be back in the playoffs this year if they can maintain this. Okay, now for some questions heading into Week 13. And my first question is, what are the Chiefs this year? Because, they got the win against the Colts in overtime, but then you have those losses to the Jaguars. You have that win against the Lions, but then they're kind of just depending on what you get every week. Because, they had that close loss to the Eagles in Week 2. So they get a really good test against the Cowboys, who I could see Mahomes having one of those great games from him against this Cowboys defense. But this Cowboys defense, don't sleep on them because they've looked great the past 2 weeks, aside from that first half in the Philly game. So I think that this Chiefs defense will be tested and especially this Chiefs offense, if they can keep up with the Cowboys offense. Because, we've seen it this year. That Cowboys offense is just electric. And if they can keep up with them, they can keep up with anyone. Because that Cowboys offense is one of the top in the league. And, they will be tested this week. My second question is, are the Bears legit? like they're 8-3, but most of those wins aren't like really good wins against good teams. Like they're beating the Vikings, they're beating who did they beat? They beat the Steelers. So like those aren't like top teams, but they do play a top team on Amazon Prime Video on Black Friday. So it'll be a real test as the Eagles are 8-3 and the Bears are 8-3 as well, I believe. So can they keep the win to stay on top of the NFC North? We will see, as the Eagles have proven that they have a really tough team to play. And I think this will also be a test for the Eagles, as they just lost to the Cowboys, as we talked about. So if the Eagles lose this game, they're 8-4 and the Bears are 9-3. The Bears are pretty comfortably on top of the NFC North. And the Eagles, say the Cowboys win, the Cowboys are 6-5-1, and the Eagles would be 8-4. And just like that, the Cowboys are very much back in this race in the NFC East. My next question is, how does Shedeur Sanders do in his second start? As we know, Shedeur Sanders balled out in his debut. Well, not balled out, but, he did pretty good. Not going to lie. As we look at the Browns this week, they have the 49ers, so a little bit tougher of a test. Obviously, then they have the Titans, the Bears, the Bills, the Steelers, and the Bengals. So if he can kind of string some wins together, I think you will know without a doubt who is their starter heading into 2026 by the end of the season, depending on how he plays. Because if he plays garbage against the 49ers, they could flip it right back to Dillon Gabriel. I know they said he's making his second career start because Dillon Gabriel, he was in concussion protocol, but they're saying, you know what? He's out of concussion protocol. We're just going to go back to Shedeur Sanders because he looked better than Dillon Gabriel. He took more risks than Dillon Gabriel. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he performs throughout the season and if they keep him as their starter. But yeah, that is my Week 12 analysis and breakdown. Like, subscribe, do all that good stuff, and I'll see you in the next one.